Most people believe chasing money will make them rich. It sounds logical. If you want money, you go after it. Work harder, earn more. Repeat. But what if this belief is the exact reason most people stay poor? What if chasing money is not the solution, but the trap? According to the strategic mindset often associated with Niccolo Machiavelli, power is never gained by chasing. It is gained by positioning. In the moment you start chasing money directly, you lose control. Now think about this carefully. When you chase something, you are always behind it. You are reacting. You are following. You are dependent on catching it. And dependence is weakness. Now imagine two individuals. The first spends their life chasing money. They search for better jobs, higher salaries, more income. They are always moving, always trying, but never in control. The second person thinks differently. They do not chase money. They build value. They position themselves. They create systems. And slowly, money begins moving toward them. At first, this difference is invisible. But over time, it becomes everything. Because chasing creates dependence and positioning creates power. Now consider what happens psychologically when you chase money. You begin making decisions based on urgency. You accept opportunities quickly. You tolerate situations you dislike. You prioritize income over strategy because you feel pressure, and pressure limits thinking. When your mind is focused on survival, it cannot think long-term. It reacts, it adapts, but it does not control. Machiavelli understood this deeply. He knew that the person under pressure is the easiest to control because they need something, and the more they need it, the less power they have. Now apply this to money. If you desperately need money, your position weakens. You negotiate poorly. You accept less. You compromise more because your priority is immediate gain, not long-term control. Now imagine the opposite. Someone who is not desperate. Someone who has options. Someone who has options. Their behavior changes. They become selective. They negotiate confidently. They walk away when necessary because they are not controlled by urgency. And this is where power begins. Now consider something deeper. Chasing money keeps you focused on income, but income is limited. It depends on time, effort, availability. If you stop, it stops. This creates a cycle. Work, income, spend, then repeat. No matter how much you earn, the cycle continues. Now imagine breaking that cycle. Instead of chasing income, you focus on building something, a system, an asset, a structure that produces value. At first, this feels slower, less rewarding. But over time, something changes. Your effort begins multiplying because systems scale, and scaling creates growth. Now consider another important idea. When you chase money, you compete. You enter crowded spaces. You fight for opportunities. You become replaceable because many people are doing the same thing. Now imagine positioning instead. You build skills. You develop value. You enter spaces where demand exists. You become difficult to replace. This changes your entire position because now you are not chasing money. Money is responding to your value. Now think about this carefully. Chasing money makes you reactive. Building value makes you attractive. Reactive people follow. Attractive people lead. Now consider how this affects your life over time. If you chase money, you will always feel pressure. You will always need the next opportunity, the next income, the next result. But if you build value, your position strengthens. Opportunities come to you. Income becomes a result, not a goal. And this removes pressure. Now imagine living without constant financial urgency, not because you have unlimited money, but because you have control. Control over how you earn. Control over your time. Control over your direction. This is the real goal, not money. Control. Machiavelli would describe this as the difference between dependency and power. The one who chases is dependent. The one who positions is powerful. Now, consider the final idea for this part. Chasing money feels productive. It feels like progress. But in reality, it often keeps you in the same place because you are always reacting, always following, never controlling. But the moment you stop chasing and start positioning, everything changes because money stops being something you run after and becomes something that moves toward you. When you chase money, something happens that most people never notice. You become predictable. And in the world of strategy, predictability is weakness. This is a principle deeply aligned with the thinking often associated with Niccolò Machiavelli. Because Machiavelli understood that the easiest person to control is the one whose behavior you can predict. Now think about how most people behave around money. They wake up at the same time, work in the same structure, follow the same routine, make decisions based on income. Their entire life becomes organized around earning. This creates a pattern, and patterns can be controlled. Now imagine a system, a company, an economy. It knows people need money, so it creates incentives, salary, bonuses, promotions. These incentives guide behavior. People follow the structure willingly because they need the outcome, and that need creates control. Now consider this carefully. No one is forcing most people physically, yet they still follow the system because they are financially dependent. This is the hidden control, and it is extremely powerful. Now imagine two individuals again. The first needs money urgently. They cannot afford to lose income. They cannot afford risk. They must accept what is available. The second has reduced that dependence. They have options. They can walk away. They can choose. Who is easier to control? Always the first, because need creates pressure, and pressure creates compliance. Machiavelli understood this dynamic perfectly. If you control what someone needs, you control how they behave. Now apply this to money. If your survival depends entirely on income, your behavior becomes predictable. You will follow the rules. Accept the structure. Avoid risk, because you cannot afford uncertainty. Now consider how this affects your decisions. You may stay in environments you dislike. You may accept opportunities that limit you. You may delay growth because it feels risky, all because your priority is immediate income, not long-term control. Now imagine removing that pressure slowly. You build savings. You create additional income. You reduce unnecessary expenses. Each step reduces dependence, and as dependence decreases, your behavior changes. You become less predictable, less controlled, more strategic. Now consider another layer. Chasing money also affects how others perceive you. If you appear desperate, your value decreases. People sense urgency, and urgency weakens your position. But if you appear calm, selective, and controlled, your value increases because control signals power. Now imagine two people negotiating. One needs the deal urgently. The other has options. The one who needs it more will accept less. The one who needs it less will control the outcome. This is not unfair, it is psychological reality. Now consider how this applies to everyday life. When you chase money, you often accept less than you deserve because you need the outcome. But when you reduce your dependence, you negotiate differently. You wait, you evaluate, you choose, and that changes everything. Now think about this carefully. Money itself is not controlling you. Your need for it is. And the stronger that need becomes, the weaker your position becomes. This is why chasing money can keep you poor. Not because money is bad, but because chasing creates dependence, and dependence limits power. Now imagine someone who builds their life differently. They still earn money, but they do not rely on it completely. They build systems, they create options, they reduce their need. Over time, their behavior changes. They become less reactive, more strategic, more controlled, and that shift creates opportunity. Now consider something deeper. Systems are designed around predictable behavior. If people behave in predictable ways, systems function smoothly. But those who break patterns gain advantage because they are not easily controlled. Now imagine stepping outside the typical pattern. Instead of chasing income constantly, you focus on building value. Instead of reacting to opportunities, you create them. Instead of depending on one source, you build multiple. Your behavior becomes different, and different behavior creates different results. Now consider the long-term effect. Most people remain predictable. They follow the same cycle. Work, earn, spend, repeat. But a few individuals break that cycle. They reduce dependence. They build control. They position themselves differently. And over time, the gap between them and everyone else grows. Now think about the final idea in this part. Chasing money does not just limit your income, it limits your power because it keeps you predictable. dependent, controlled. But the moment you reduce that dependence, your behavior changes, your decisions improve, your position strengthens, and once your position strengthens, money stops controlling you and starts responding to you. One of the most dangerous effects of chasing money is not obvious. It quietly traps you in the wrong environment. And once you are in the wrong environment, no amount of hard work can truly move you forward. This is a principle deeply connected to the mindset often associated with Niccolo Machiavelli, because Machiavelli believed that your position determines your outcome more than your effort. Now think about this carefully. If you chase money, you go wherever money appears. You don't choose the environment. You react to it. You accept what is available, not what is optimal. And this creates a hidden problem. You often end up in low-value environments, places where growth is limited, opportunities are scarce, and competition is high. Now imagine two individuals again. The first chases money. They accept the first opportunity that pays. They focus on immediate income. They prioritize stability over strategy. The second person thinks differently. They choose their environment carefully. They look for growth, for demand, for opportunity. At first, the first person may earn faster, the second may struggle, but over time, something changes. The environment begins shaping their results. Because environment multiplies effort, now consider what a low-value environment looks like. Limited demand, slow growth, high competition. In such an environment, even hard work produces small results, because the system itself is weak. Now imagine a high-value environment, growing demand, expanding opportunities, increasing value. In this environment, even moderate effort produces strong results, because the system supports growth. This is why positioning matters more than effort. Now think about how chasing money affects your positioning. You don't choose where to go. You go where money is available immediately, even if that environment limits your future. This is the trap. Short-term gain creates long-term limitation. Now imagine choosing differently. Instead of asking, where can I earn quickly? You ask, where can I grow the most? This question changes your direction, because growth leads to value, and value attracts money. Now consider another layer. Chasing money often keeps you in saturated spaces, places where many people are competing, where skills are common, where replacement is easy. This reduces your leverage, because when you are easily replaceable, your value decreases. Now imagine developing rare skills, entering less crowded spaces, building something unique. Your competition decreases, your value increases, and money begins responding to you differently. Now consider the psychological side of this. When you chase money, you focus on urgency. You think short-term, you prioritize immediate results. But when you focus on positioning, you think long-term, you invest in growth, you accept temporary discomfort for future advantage. This difference in thinking creates completely different outcomes. Now imagine someone working hard for years in the wrong environment. They feel stuck, they feel frustrated, because their effort is not producing results. But the problem is not their effort, it is their position. Now imagine someone working in the right environment. Their effort multiplies, their growth accelerates, their opportunities expand, because they are aligned with value. This is the hidden truth. Hard work is not enough. It must be placed correctly. Now consider another important idea. Chasing money often prevents you from learning, because you are focused on earning, not growing. You spend your time working, but not developing, and without development, your value remains limited. Now imagine focusing on growth instead, learning, improving, building skills. At first, income may be slower, but over time, your value increases, and increased value creates more opportunities. Now consider how this connects to Machiavellian thinking. Machiavelli believed that those who understand systems gain advantage because they position themselves strategically, instead of reacting blindly. Now imagine seeing this system clearly. You understand where value is increasing, where demand is growing, where opportunities exist, and you move toward those areas. This is positioning. Now think about the long-term effect. If you chase money, you remain in reactive mode. You follow opportunities. You depend on what appears. But if you position yourself, you create opportunities. You control your direction, and control creates power. Now imagine breaking free from the cycle. Instead of working hard in the wrong place, you move to the right place. Instead of chasing income, you build value. Instead of competing blindly, you position strategically. This is how you escape the trap. Now consider the final idea for this part. Chasing money does not just limit your income, it limits your environment. And your environment determines your future. But the moment you shift from chasing to positioning, your environment changes. Your opportunities expand, and your growth accelerates. Because you are no longer following money, you are aligning with value. And where value grows, money always follows. There is a hidden cost to chasing money that most people never realize. It destroys your ability to build real wealth, not immediately, but slowly, over time. And this idea aligns deeply with the strategic thinking often associated with Niccolo Machiavelli. Because Machiavelli understood something critical, short-term gain often blinds people to long-term power. Now think about how chasing money works. You focus on earning quickly. You take opportunities that pay immediately. You prioritize income over structure. At first, this feels productive. You are earning, moving, growing. But something is missing. Leverage. Now consider the difference between earning and building. Earning creates income once. Building creates income repeatedly. This is the difference between labor and leverage. Labor requires constant effort. Leverage multiplies effort. Now imagine working for money every day. You perform a task. You get paid. You repeat. If you stop, income stops. This is labor. Now imagine building something once and benefiting from it many times. A system, an asset, a process. This is leverage. Now consider why chasing money prevents leverage. Because you are focused on immediate reward. You don't invest time into building systems. You don't create structures. You stay in the cycle of earning. And that cycle limits your growth. Now imagine two individuals again. The first spends all their time earning. They maximize short-term income. They feel busy, but they build nothing lasting. The second person divides their time. They earn, but they also build. At first they earn less, but they create something, a system, a structure. And over time, that system grows. Now imagine 10 years passing. The first person is still working, still earning, still dependent. The second person has systems producing value. Their effort has multiplied. Their income has scaled. This is the difference between labor and leverage. Now consider another important idea. Time is limited. You cannot work more than a certain number of hours, which means your earning potential is limited if it depends only on effort. But leverage removes that limit. Because systems can scale beyond your time. Now imagine creating something that reaches thousands of people or produces value continuously. Your effort expands, your results multiply, and your income grows without equal increase in effort. This is how wealth is built. Now consider how chasing money prevents this. You are always busy, always working, always focused on the next payment. You don't have time to build, to think, to create systems. And without systems, growth remains limited. Now imagine shifting your focus. Instead of asking, how can I earn more today? You ask, what can I build that earns repeatedly? This question changes everything because it shifts your focus from labor to leverage. Now, consider another layer. Leverage compounds over time. A small system today becomes a larger system tomorrow. Growth accelerates because systems build on systems. Now imagine building one system, then improving it, then expanding it. Over time, your structure becomes stronger and stronger structures create stable wealth. Now consider the psychological difference. Someone focused on labor feels pressure constantly. They must perform every day, but someone building leverage feels different. They invest effort, then benefit from it repeatedly. Their pressure decreases over time. Now imagine reaching a point where your income is not tied to daily effort. Your systems are working. Your structure is producing. This creates freedom, not from work, but from dependence. Now consider something deeper. Chasing money trains your brain to think short-term. You look for immediate results, quick gains, fast outcomes. But building wealth requires long-term thinking, patience, strategy, and most people never develop this mindset because they are trapped in the cycle of chasing. Now imagine breaking that cycle. You still earn, but you also build. You invest in systems. You create leverage. Over time, your focus shifts from earning to controlling. Now consider how this aligns with Machiavellian thinking. Machiavelli believed that power comes from structures, not temporary gains, and leverage is a structure. It creates lasting advantage. Now, imagine living with this understanding. Every action becomes strategic. Every effort contributes to something larger. You are not just working. You are building. And building creates power. Now consider the final idea for this part. Chasing money may increase your income, but it limits your wealth because it keeps you in labor. But building leverage changes everything. It multiplies your effort. It expands your reach. It creates long-term growth. And once leverage begins working, money stops depending on your time and starts depending on what you built. At the deepest level, chasing money doesn't just keep you financially limited. It keeps you mentally poor. Not because you lack income, but because your mindset stays trapped in survival. And this is the final truth behind the perspective often associated with Niccolo Machiavelli. Because Machiavelli understood something most people never realize, power is not about what you chase. It is about what moves toward you. Now think about this carefully. When you chase money, your mind is always focused on lack. What do I need? What am I missing? How can I get more? This creates a constant sense of urgency, pressure, restlessness, and this mental state affects everything. Your decisions become reactive. Your thinking becomes short-term. Your actions become driven by necessity. Now imagine the opposite. You are not chasing money. You are building value, positioning yourself, creating systems. Your focus shifts from lack to creation. Now your questions change. What can I build? What can I improve? How can I improve my value? This shift changes your entire mindset because instead of reacting to the world, you begin shaping it. Now consider another important idea. People who chase money often feel busy, but not powerful. They are always doing something, working, moving, earning, but they are not controlling. Now imagine someone who builds systems. They may work less visibly, but their impact grows, their influence expands, their control increases, because they are not just working, they are building. Now consider how this affects your life over time. If you chase money, you remain in a cycle. Work, earn, spend, repeat. No matter how much you earn, the pattern continues. But if you build value, something changes. Opportunities begin coming to you. People reach out. Money flows toward your systems because value attracts attention, and attention attracts money. Now imagine reaching that point where you no longer search for opportunities, they find you, where you no longer compete for income. It responds to your value. This is the reversal. Now think about why this happens. Because you are no longer replaceable. You have built something. Skills, systems, structures, things that create value. And value creates demand. Now consider another layer. When money starts coming to you, your behavior changes. You become selective. You choose what to accept. You reject what does not align with your goals because you are not desperate. And lack of desperation creates power. Now imagine negotiating from this position. You don't need the deal. You want the right deal. This changes everything because the one who needs less controls more. This is a core principle Machiavelli would recognize immediately. Now consider the emotional difference. Someone chasing money feels pressure constantly, but someone attracting money feels calm, focused, strategic, because their life is not dependent on one outcome. Now imagine living without constant urgency, not because you stopped working, but because your work is aligned with value. Your systems are active. Your position is strong. This creates clarity, and clarity creates better decisions. Now consider the final transformation. At the beginning, you chase money. Then you realize the trap. Then you shift your focus from earning to building, from chasing to positioning, from reacting to controlling. And eventually something changes. Money begins moving toward you, not because you stopped working, but because you started thinking differently. Now imagine living with this mindset permanently. Every action builds value. Every decision strengthens your position. Every system increases your leverage. Over time, your life becomes more stable, more flexible, more powerful. Now consider the final truth. Chasing money keeps you poor, not just financially, but mentally. Because it keeps you dependent, but building value creates independence, and independence creates power. Machiavelli understood this clearly. The most powerful person is not the one who chases. It is the one who attracts, because attraction comes from position, from value, from control. Now imagine reaching that level, where you no longer run after money, where your systems bring it to you, where your value creates it. That is the final shift. You don't chase money anymore. Money starts chasing you. And once that happens, everything changes.